Pain Free for Life members, this is Dr. Rob Vanbergen, and I am back with our Monday 10-minute training. It's been a bit of a roller coaster over the last couple of weeks, and I haven't gotten to do these in the regular way. So I'm really happy to be back, coming up with new videos and talking about new concepts that we really haven't discussed before. So today we're actually going to be talking about inflammatory foods and what to eat instead. We're also going to touch a little bit on how to use microcurrent to help us with the gut inflammation associated with food interactions. Because again, microcurrent is what we do. And despite the importance of food, it can certainly cause us problems all around, right? Now, inflammatory foods are a huge issue for anyone with pain and discomfort. Because even if you're not feeling that in your gut, you're actually getting the fire elsewhere in your body as a result of it. It's sort of spreading. We talk about this in depth in the Hache protocol reset. And while some things may be obvious that you shouldn't eat, others will totally sneak up on you and could take you by surprise. So today, I'm going to cover the issues with inflammatory foods, and I'm going to make some suggestions about anti-inflammatory foods as well. However, a word of caution. Just because foods are generally considered anti-inflammatory doesn't mean that they might not cause problems for you. Okay, food sensitivities are a big problem, and they can impact anyone with any food, no matter how healthy the food may be on paper, right? So listen to your body, see how it reacts to any given food. If you're willing to share, let me know in the comments on the video here what your food sensitivities were or are. And I say were because it's actually possible to move past food sensitivities. But this will help others see that there are common ones, but there are definitely rare ones as well. So let's talk a little bit about generally inflammatory foods first. These would be things that increase inflammation within your body. And so many of these are obvious, right? Refined carbohydrates. So again, we probably know we shouldn't be eating that. Fried foods, as delicious as some of them may be, fried foods are not very good for us. They can definitely feed the fires of inflammation. Sugars are huge. And if you have candida infection, which is quite common among a lot of people, even though it kind of goes unnoticed, sugars will really increase the inflammation within your body, and it can even lead to excessive weight gain as well. Processed foods. So processed foods are obviously not the best things for us. The advantage to them is that they last a while. The disadvantage to them is that they cause a variety of issues when we eat them, many of which are like inflammatory, right? So they're going to build that inflammation up. So if it's not fresh, you probably would be best to avoid it. Artificial trans fats, saturated fats, these are problems as well. Vegetable and seed oils are usually not considered great for you, and especially in excess. Excessive alcohol, again, goes without saying, right? We know we shouldn't be drinking large amounts of alcohol. A lot of people do it anyway, but that is inflammatory for your gut. Dairy, this can be a problem for a lot of people. More interestingly enough, a lot of people in North America have problems with dairy versus people in Europe. And I think it's, there's some genetic stuff going on there. I personally have no problem with dairy. Most of my family is the same. There's this, because we're from Europe, right? It's the same with gluten. Like if you're gluten intolerant and you go to the UK and you eat gluten there, you probably won't have the same reactions. It's the way that the things are processed that can make it harder for us to kind of consume. So fatty red meats, we talk about this a lot, right? Like a lot of the issue in the red meats is the fat. The fat it kind of absorbs all of the chemicals and everything. And so especially if that food is not organic, then the meat is going to have been given all these things that have been absorbed into the fat. And fatty red meat is very hard for our body to digest, and it can create inflammation. And then food additives. This should go without saying. These are things that people put into a lot of the processed foods to prevent them from causing us, from breaking down fast so that they can ship that ham from one side of the country to the other and have it still be good. So those are generally inflammatory foods that we want to avoid. Conversely, general anti-inflammatory foods would be things like vegetables, fruit, chia seeds, healthy fats, fatty fish, generally wild caught, not farmed, Gets the most bang for your buck there. Specific nuts, dark chocolate is actually good for you in a lot of ways. It's a good antioxidant. Garlic and onions can be anti-inflammatory. Loads of spices can be too. Things like turmeric, you can put that on your food. Red wine in small amounts, and preferably Pinot Noir if you're going to drink red wine. And you're going to have your 1 glass a day. I think it's 1 glass a day for women or up to 2 for men in typical standards. If you were to do this and you use Pinot Noir, you're getting the most out of that for actual health benefits. It's just the way it's made. It's a lot less sugar and it's got a lot more of the good stuff in it. And of course, plenty of water, but limiting the water, to the point where it's safe. Too much water can actually destroy your electrolytes in your body. So I drink anywhere from 20 to 30 cups of water a day. Lots of water there. It's more than is recommended, which is like 8 to 9. And then you can go up to, I mean, somewhere around the hundreds if you have good, healthy kidneys before you start causing yourself problems. But again, that's a lot of water. You could stick to a more comfortable lower level, but stay hydrated. Good for reducing inflammation. It's like putting water on a fire, right? Now, this list may seem simple to follow, but the big issue here is that it's not all going to be accurate for any individual person, right? If I turn around and say blanketly that all fruits and vegetables are anti-inflammatory, well, that's just a flat out lie. People may have issues with lectins, for example, making tomatoes, something that we might generally consider quite healthy and delicious, a problem for us. I, for example, cannot consume avocados. That's a superfood right there. It's extremely good for many people, but for me, it causes anaphylaxis. Raw vegetables, these to me are actually inflammatory foods as well. I have to make sure to steam my vegetables if I'm going to eat them, which I definitely do. But it's a challenge that we can see here, right? Some people have intolerances to fish, garlic, flax seeds, things that you normally consider healthy, and beyond, right? So as I mentioned, you got to pay attention to your body and you got to work from there. Now, not that you should focus on eating foods that are problematic for you, because we all know what causes us problems, right? But in some cases, things happen, right? It's mixed in with the meal and it causes you an issue and you just happen to eat a little bit of it. And it causes you that kind of uncomfortable inflammatory feeling. So this is a time that you could step in and use microcurrent to help curb the inappropriate inflammatory process. While in theory, you could keep working through and consuming the food and doing microcurrent to allow yourself to do that, it's not going to be conducive to a good body environment, right? So use this for when you have to. So treatment in these cases can curb these reactions. First off is going to be obvious, and this is vagus nerve stimulation. I talk about this all the time. Everyone knows about vagus nerve stimulation in this group because I never shut up about it, right? But I'll show you guys how to do that really fast here. So I currently have Pinnacle, not my Evolution. My batteries on my Evolution are dead, and I haven't got new ones yet. So with the Pinnacle here, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to scroll to 7 to 12 hertz. This is exactly the same mode that you would use when you are using your Evolution, right? It's the first mode, 7 to 12 hertz. I'm going to go to my left side of my body and I'm going to feel for my carotid artery, which I can't find today. There it is. So once I've found it, I'm going to go behind it. I'm going to place the Y probe there and I'm going to adjust the power until I can feel it. Okay. Once I can feel it, I'll start to feel like a jiggling on my neck. And I want to kind of control that. But I'm just going to do 3 minutes of treatment, up to 15. So in a situation where you've eaten something that's causing a lot of inflammation, it's causing like a reaction that you want to get rid of, I would do like a 15-minute vagus nerve to kind of calm everything down. Remember that so many of the signals from your vagus nerve stimulation are being sent to your gut to reduce inflammation, which is going to reduce a lot of that discomfort there as well. The second thing, a little bit less commonly known and a little bit less commonly performed, would be doing the treatment of the adrenals. So in the case of foods, we sometimes take things we shouldn't by accident, right? And in those times, an antihistamine may be necessary to curb serious allergic reactions, or maybe even an EpiPen. But what is an EpiPen if not adrenaline? Now, microcurrent can work in tandem with the body for minor allergies. I don't recommend it for major allergic reactions, beyond the fact that you could do it as well as the other things you have in place. If you are a person that's anaphylactic to avocados, like me, you have an EpiPen on hand in case you accidentally come in contact with avocados, right? But once this is done, calm the nervous system with vagus nerve because it is going to go crazy from something like that. Or you look to the adrenals as a way of providing yourself with a release of adrenaline to lower that inflammation. Okay. So, stimulation of the adrenal glands can actually stop these allergic reactions. The only tricky thing is that your adrenals are best accessed through your back. Okay. So, what you're going to do is, where your shoulder blades meet, right? They kind of point down a little bit. You want to go just below that, about 3 inches. And this is roughly the same on either side. One is a little bit higher than the other, but I found it doesn't really matter because you're in the general vicinity. So you're going to put your Y probe about 2 to 3 inches below the adrenal area, or below the shoulder blades, and that's going to be right where the adrenals are. From that point, you're going to use blue stimulation just for 2 to 3 minutes to try and release a surge of adrenaline and calm that system down afterwards with vagus nerve. So you want to make sure you're doing that to get rid of the inflammatory reaction, the inappropriate immune response, and then we can start to deal with the other stuff as well. So this is kind of a trick. It's a little challenging to do, as I said. You can kind of get around it on your own if you know how to do that once you get comfortable with the location. But having someone to help you for that treatment is great if you do. But after you've done the adrenal protocol, I would continue to do vagus nerve stimulation because this is going to set you into kind of a fight or flight mode, which is what you want because it's going to boost you through this allergic reaction. But remember as well, things like antihistamines, things like EpiPens, these are life-saving tools in cases of these extreme allergic reactions. So kind of use this in tandem with those. Do not say, oh, I'm never going to need to use one of these again. It's good to have these things on hand in case of emergencies. As I said, sometimes people put things in foods and we don't know that they're in them, especially at restaurants. And usually people like this are careful, but we should just know that we have these tool sets that we can use if we want to. So that is a basic overview of inflammatory and anti-inflammatory foods and what to do when they cause you problems. Thank you everyone for watching. But remember, we go over a lot more of this stuff in detail in the Hache protocol reset. And while the doors are closed, if you'd like to register for the wait list for the reset, you can do so through the link in the video description as well. We're hoping to launch another session in the new year. We've already got people on that wait list too. So I hope to see all of you next week for another Monday 10-minute training. If you have any questions, let me know. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.